The best thing about my dad is probably the fact that even though he's been through motor neuron disease and he's still going through it, he still doesn't give up on us. He got it when I was quite young, so I kind of adapted to it and I've got used to it. But it's probably the hardest thing I've had to deal with in my life, besides having two annoying brothers. Hopefully there'll be a cure in the future. I don't know how long he'll be able to stay around. I think he said he just wants to see me grow up.
Although they are aware that people don't recover from the illness, I think they are fairly convinced that he's going to be around for a long time, and even with the counselling advice we've had, no one's been quite sure how to broach it. Initially they were very close with him still, and actually through primary school they wanted him to come to everything in his wheelchair. They didn't mind that he was different, that he looked different. But when they went to secondary school, it did shift. That's a big change for any child. And they did suddenly become a lot more self-conscious and very aware and not liking having a different dad and concerned about their peers' reactions. They didn't really want their peers to know. And there's been a few little bullying issues as well around it. I've lived, practically speaking, as a single mum in many ways for the last few years, and with 3 growing boys that's not easy. And also my relationship with Steve has really suffered. It's very difficult to maintain a relationship with someone who can't share everyday normal bonding experiences. We can't go out for a meal together, we can't even go down the pub together. He can't touch me, we can't hold hands. There's a ton of equipment between us all the time. We can't even have a normal flowing conversation. By the time he types things in with his eyes, that moment's long past. We do still go out as a couple now and then. We enjoy going to see bands play, and so we try and do that. And to take the strain off me now, a carer will drive us there and help get him in and out so that I can relax more. But that can leave me feeling a bit of a spare part as well. There's no easy way around it, and ultimately the illness has not just taken away Steve's faculties, but it's really destroyed the relationship we had, which is, very sad. I get lonely, and I very much miss having a father for our boys in the full sense of the word, and I miss having a partner in the full sense of the word. And that doesn't mean he doesn't try and do his best. He does keep involved where he can with the children, but obviously practically he can't. So.
Although we knew we were having triplets, nothing can prepare you for the moment you are suddenly faced with looking after 3 babies. It was particularly emotional for me, as my own dad had died just 6 weeks before they were born. Well, I guess I just wanted to be as good as my own dad had been. However, my dad was 50 when I was born, so I think we both missed out on some typical father and son activities. So I was looking forward to these experiences with my own sons. Unfortunately, they were only 6 years old when I was struck by motor neuron disease, so we had been denied this. It's an inescapable and sad fact that Jake, Luke and Daniel have missed out on many aspects of childhood that they would have experienced otherwise, but equally I hope that as adults they will have some positive traits as a result of their experience, such as determination and patience, but also to appreciate how good life is when you're healthy. I think motor neuron disease is the most physically debilitating disease there is, so life before and after is utterly incomparable. It's like a different life. Absolutely every aspect of your existence changes. I probably knew as much as 99% of the population do, which is almost nothing. The only reference I had was Stephen Hawking. I thought he had the worst form of the disease, but now I know he is actually very fortunate. It's funny, I remember exactly where I was when I first saw a program about him, and I remember thinking that was about the worst thing that could happen to someone. Little could I have known that within 20 years, that would be me.
My dad, yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, I mean, he got a good job, affects life insurance, he can still get the money, you know, still afford the house. I would kind of describe him as probably somebody who's been through a lot. He's quite strong. I know, like, on the inside he's still the same. He can't do really as much as he could before.
My dad is different from most dads, I suppose. I mean, there might be some other dads like him, but most dads, because of his illness and his disability.
The earliest memory of my dad is probably when he could walk, because I could remember him playing football with me when I was like 4, maybe 5, 6, just before he couldn't walk. The best thing about my dad is that he never gives up and that he always is kind and nice and he always does stuff for me.
When we first met, Steve was he was a kind man, very close to his mum and his sister. They were a close family, very supportive of each other. He was a very good son. He was a little bit flash. He had a slightly flashy little white GT something or other with a spoiler that he was quite proud of. He's always been a little bit of a boy racer, I think, very into his cars and his gadgets, quite spontaneous, much more so than me. We'd go off to places, go on weekends away where he'd very much enjoy navigating walks and things with the dogs. Steve has always been a really good father. He did more than his fair share of nappy changes, and he would play with them and make time for them when he got in from work, although obviously once he was back at work he'd often get home about their bedtime and see a little bit less of them. I think he quite enjoyed occasionally taking them out on his own because he got quite a lot of female attention, I think, a bit of admiration seeing a man with 3 gorgeous little babies. So yeah, he was a really good dad, and I think it's very unfair and frustrating that just at the point where the boys were going to become more daddy's boys, less of mummy's boys, and start to do the sort of things a dad would do with them, he got motor neurone disease, and because of the way it progressed, he was unable to do the kicking the football around and had to watch me doing it very badly. One of the sad things about the illness is that it fills your head with how he is now and sort of takes away your memories of what he was like. Because of the duration of the illness for us, and our situation is different to many other sufferers. Steve has been unusual in that he progressed very quickly in the first sort of couple of years, 2-3 years, which left him terribly disabled. And then inexplicably the illness has stopped progressing. So initially we were dealing with the thought of him actually dying and leaving me with the boys and without him. But now we've had to readjust to him actually living, but living in a state of terrible disability which affects everything, and that's been hard to deal with. Things have not turned out as we expected. Having said that, the whole thing with motor neurone is it's terribly uncertain because every case is different, and the uncertainty is very difficult to live with.
The only thing I wish I had known when I was diagnosed was that I would still be here 7 years later. Then maybe I wouldn't have spent the first 2 years preoccupied by the thought of dying. I think the most difficult thing is having missed out on being the dad I wanted to be and watching other people do the activities with them that I had expected to be doing myself. I often think about which ability I would have restored if I could choose just one. It actually depends on the circumstances. On a warm summer's evening, I miss a cold beer. When I think of a hilarious response to something someone says, I crave a voice, and when one of the boys is upset, I just want my arms to work to hug them.
Not to think about the future because sometimes it can really hurt my feelings because my dad, he could get worse, he could stop breathing because he hasn't got to the breathing stage yet, but he could start to lose breath and he could die at some point, which I don't really want to think about.
Well, I am very upset that he had the illness, but I'm also quite happy on the fact that he's still alive and we can still spend a lot of time with him.